Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Surviving Mars. It's episode 2, and episode 1 I just deployed the very earliest structures of my colony. I have a fuel refinery, I have a moisture evaporator to make water, but I'm not making enough energy. What I can do right now is use the Stirling generator, which is a power generator, but it has two phases, or two states. I can open this thing up, and by doing that, I can get more power production. It does, however, make it vulnerable to dust contamination. And right now you can see down below here that it has a maintenance cost, but it doesn't actually require any maintenance because it's not deteriorated. When I open it up, I will start to have to pay a couple of polymers, or one polymer actually, to try and keep this thing operational. For now though, shouldn't be too much of an issue, so let's just open it up. You can actually see this thing opening up. And now I'm generating enough power. And with that, I'm also going to be generating fuel. Now, I want to fuel up one of the rockets first. Let's make this one the... Oh, no. Oh, hold on. Let's make this one the priority. And something else that I want to do is set up a couple of storage depots. Because right now, most of my resources are still aboard my rockets. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you want to have somewhere centralized where you can deploy or store all these things. So let's build a couple of storages. I'm going to go with a couple of specialized depots. So I want to have a metals depot. I want to have a concrete depot. Next, food is not really a priority, and I wouldn't necessarily put that in the middle of the colony. I would probably put that closer to a dome. Rare metals, sometime later in the future. Polymers. We got the electronics, and we have the machine parts. These things, they store a little bit of fuel. They can store about 100 units of fuel, so I don't really need fuel storage. And what you can also see happen now that I have these depots set up is that my little drones are starting to offload all the metal that I just brought in from the Stealth 2. And the Stealth 1 is also about to get offloaded. Now what I want to do today is set up this rover, the RC transport. I have a couple of mods running in the background, and one of those allows this auto gather button. So that I can now start to auto gather materials from the surface of Mars. And it's heading over here to pick up this metal, for example. Now something else that we're going to really need is concrete. This is going to allow me to actually build buildings, and particularly domes. So production, concrete extractor, and yeah, just put that over there. Then set up a power line. And there you go. Now, in the previous episode I was talking a little bit about the sols, and as you guys pointed out correctly, the sol is 1 day. It's 25 Earth hours. How then exactly one of these rockets got to Mars in 1 day, I don't get. Let's not look too deeply into that, because it's a little weird. Now, something else that I got from this shipment, from the Stealth 2, was the RC dozer. And the RC dozer is able to flatten terrain. So what I can do is tell it to go over here. And I can start landscaping. I'm going to start flattening this area to have a little bit more construction terrain. So set that up as the workable area, and then the RC dozer is going to start loading up the excess waste rock that it doesn't need. And with that, you can see that clearing the site is now fully in progress.
Sector scanned. Anomaly found.
Ah, we got an anomaly. Unfortunately, well, actually no, I do have an RC Explorer. Where is the anomaly? There's the anomaly. Anomalies are things that you can scan with one of your RC Explorers, and they can, depending on what sort of anomaly you get, they can give you breakthrough research, which I discussed in episode 1. They're gonna light up in this column over here. But you can also get faster progress on, as it says here, your current research goals. So this is going to give me a flat research boost of an X amount of points, and with that I'll be able to quickly complete well, one of the researches. I want to have this one first, cargo rocket space increased, especially since I only have 2 of these things. I will need to transport as much stuff as possible. The next one, I'm thinking of going with the Mohole mine. It's going to be quite expensive to build, but if I can get this thing early, I will be able to extract metals and rare metals very quickly, without really needing to invest anything else. Now I'm expecting about a 1500 point boost from this anomaly, which would quickly almost complete the fuel, or actually would complete the fuel compression and would put a big dent in the Mohole project. Now, of course, the main objective of surviving Mars is to, well, survive Mars. You need colonists. And for the colonists, I'm going to need a dome. The dome, you have a couple of options. You got the self-sufficient dome, which I require a moisture vaporator for. That's one of these things. Or you can just build a standard dome. And a standard dome is perfectly suitable
Research complete.
for a standard. There
Anomaly
we go, 1500.
Analyzed. Milestone achieved. No active research.
I actually got a bonus from it, and I immediately also completed Project Mohole. That's nice. Arcology, yes. Arcology Spire is a very useful building, as it allows a lot of population housing, whereas you're not spending building space on housing. I'll explain that later as we complete that research. Anyway, the domes. I currently have 3 different designs. I have the basic dome, which is just a half sphere. You have the micro dome, which is a smaller one. And I have the barrel dome. It's an alternative dome configuration providing more space, but lacks space for a spire. Now the spire is pretty important, because that is what I'm researching right now. That's the arcology. So what I want to have is... you're done. I want to have a dome set up over here. And I want to provide it with water, which I can mine from over there. And in the meanwhile, we're going to just continue to gather resources and load up the Stealth 1 rocket with additional fuel. Refueling is well underway. We got 14 out of 50, so we're getting somewhere. So let's set up a dome. It says there's still uneven terrain, so I need to flatten this a little more. Like that. That should give this rover something to do.
Sector scan.
Or dozer.
Anomaly found.
And we got a new anomaly. What do we have here? This unlocks additional technologies. Now, when I say it unlocks technologies, that means that right now I don't know what is where in this tree. And by unlocking it, you can see what the next technology is going to be. Important to note that these are not sequential. If I have, for example, a couple of researches unlocked over here, I can just skip this one and go directly to that one. I can pick and choose whichever one I like, but keep in mind they do increase in the amount of research points required. It's starting at 1,000 over here. Once you get to the bottom of the tree, you're probably looking at 27,000. This one, for example, 7,500, Dream Reality. So there is a lot of research to be done. And that's why, especially since I don't have a lot of research at the start, I want to get a dome operational quickly, send some researchers in, and the researchers can then allow me to get more research, which means more tech, and the cycle repeats. Now over here we got that little RC transport. He's picking up deposits of metals from all over Mars, and then ferrying those back to the depots over here. In the meanwhile, we also have the concrete extractor operational, which is dropping off concrete over here.
Anomaly
And something else
analyzed.
that... there we go. Something else that happens is that this thing produces waste rock. It will toss out the waste rock pretty much right next to the building. That's not necessarily where I would want it, though. I'm going to first flatten this area a little more. And then I'm going to set up another depot over there, which is a... where is it? Storage's dumping site. Or even a large dumping site. The RC dozer first has to flatten this terrain, so I can start to set up my dome over there. If you really wanted to, you could flatten this whole area. It would be a ton of work, but you could do it. Is it worth the effort? Probably not. Now I'm going to set the RC Explorer to also explore, which is also based on a mod. And with that, the RC Explorer will not require any further orders from me. As long as I detect additional anomalies, the RC Explorer will immediately start looking for these things, and will scan them all by itself. We got a bit of a drone heavy load going on.
Sector scan.
Which means that there's a
Anomaly
lot
found.
of different load tasks, or tasks in general for these drones. And that means that some tasks might be taken on a little slower. Not necessarily a bad thing, but if you have an excess amount of tasks for the drones, you might find that they sometimes don't get around to what you want them to do. And that's where you can use these priority buttons. Change priority. Currently I've set it to high, so that loading up this rocket with the fuel over here is going to be a high priority for the drones. And with that I can send this thing back and then make sure that I get more colonists. Now the area over here should be nice and flat now. Flat enough to build a dome anyway. No, it's still uneven terrain. Really? What about it then? Because it looks pretty even to me. Do I need to flatten it even more? Prioritize this. And we'll figure out that area over there later. Ah, the drone's already done. Perfect. Alright, let's set up a deposit area for the waste rock. Large dumping site. It's currently too far from working drone commander, so over here they can still reach it. Did I bring a drone commander? Yes, I did bring a drone hub. Perfect. Alright, let's set that up over here. So now that if both of my rockets are gone, I will still have something that's controlling all my drones.
To scan.
We've got a couple more sectors that need scanning. Alright. Now, if I wanted to build that project Mohole, I'm going to need 40 power. I'm going to need 400 in concrete, 100 metals, which I'm actually quite close to getting. And on top of that, I will need 300 machine parts. I could call in machine parts. Not necessarily from a cargo rocket, because they're both on Mars. But I could go with a supply pod. It would require a massive investment though. This is 450 million for just the 25. And I would need a load of these shipments. So right now the project is just outside of my reach. Maybe later on, when I have more of an economy going, I have more capacity, and I will actually get that done. But for now, it is not that likely to happen anytime soon. Now, it looked like the dozer is now saying that the area is flat. There we go. It was just a little bit of terrain over here, I think, behind the rockets. Alright, let's set up the dome. The first dome right there. The drone commander, sorry, the drone hub, by the way, is now operational. Also gave me a couple of drones. And there are still some drones being controlled by the Stealth 1. None by the Stealth 2, so I could just send that rocket away. And if you do send your rocket away and it still has command of a few drones, they will automatically get assigned to a different drone controller. So there is no problem there. Alright, this is going to be taking a bit of time. It also is going to require a couple of polymers. I have 10, so I have enough of them. But not by much. So what I want to do is bring in an additional supply pod with a couple of polymers. Because I know that I'm going to need more polymers if I deploy this arcology spire over here. The arcology spire requires 60 concrete and 10 polymer. And it does make your life a hell of a lot easier. Just having one of those things early on. Now we did get a couple of anomalies.
There's more to the barren environs of the red planet than meets the eye. A veritable treasure trove of undiscovered knowledge and wonder. So long as you know where to look.
And as you can see here, the effect is that the following texts have been revealed on the research screen. The gravity engineering and the low G fungi. This is interesting because this is the megadome. This is something that's supposed to be far, far down the tech tree. But since I'm running with one of those modifications, or one of those changed game rules, which is called Chaos Theory, everything has been thrown into chaos. And, well, you don't quite know what sort of tech you're going to get when. The Megadome for now is way, way outside of my reach. Because it's going to require 100 polymers, which is far, far too much. Now I also have deep metal extraction, so I can make use of deep metal and rare metal deposits. I can now have emergency training, so that security officers and medics, these are colonists, have more performance. And I got the low G fungi, and apparently this one as well. Reduces water consumption of domes. And this one is the fungal farm, which is an out-dome building. So it's not inside the dome, it's right next to it. and it produces food. I don't think I'm going to need this one, because I much prefer to have my food produced in the dome by the use of a farm. Speaking of farms, I'm going to unlock utility crops next, so that eventually I can set up more efficient farming methods. Now this one can reach the water, so that's a good development. I want to have a bit of water being collected over there. And soon we should have our supply pod coming in as well. Now supply pods are different from the rockets. These I can send back. The supply pods I can't send back. The supply pods are just there. They are a one-way trip. You unload them, you disassemble them, and they're never seen again. It's quite efficient to use the supply pods, because you can quickly get supplies even if you don't have a rocket available. But there is a catch. You're paying 100 million a pop for these things. So whatever you order, whether it's food, metals, polymers, even a drone, it's going to get 100 million more expensive. And especially since I don't have that much, I have 3.8 billion at this point, those millions can cut into your budget quite quickly. Now the drones are building up the dome. We have almost all the metals required, we have all the polymers required, and we're going to have all the concrete required in a bit. There is still a bit of concrete over here, 36, and they're also picking up concrete from the concrete extractor. This concrete extractor, I think, is getting a decent yield. Yeah, average grade, which determines determines how quickly this thing can actually get the stuff from the mine. If you have a low deposit, I don't really have one here. If you have a low deposit, you're not likely to get any stuff from it anytime fast. Now sometimes you can also see these things. These are vistas.
Scanned.
Vistas get comfort boosts to colonists. The more comfortable your colonists are, the more likely they are to stay in your colony. If their comfort level drops too low, well, they're going to leave. And you're going to find that your colony is going to run empty. Now here's our new supply pod. The supply pod has been dropped off, and over here we got the resources that I ordered, the additional polymers. Now what I can do right now is send the Stealth 1 back, because it's completely refueled. So let's get that thing out of here.
Milestone achieved.
There we go. Keep in mind, rocket launches kick up a hell of a lot of dust. And with that, the Stirling generator probably got a full load of dust blown in or on top of it, depending on how you want to look at it, and is much sooner going to require maintenance. You can make sure that this doesn't happen too much by setting up some infrastructure in the form of a landing pad. And the landing pad actually makes sure that there is no dust from rockets landing or takeoff, which is impacting nearby buildings and vehicles. Now the basic dome is almost done. You can see that there's still a bit of resources being piled up here, and once we have everything, you're going to see that the dome is actually being built. Just the 3 more. 1 more. This one's also being refueled now, the Stealth 2. I think this guy could be bringing the last bit of concrete. There we go. And now the dome is being assembled. Now there's just one drone working on it. Normally it's going to go a little faster. And now, yeah, here we go. All the little helpers are coming in and speeding up construction significantly.
Research complete.
And there we go. We now have a dome. Inside the dome, you can see all sorts of small areas. Once I pick one of these, you can see these grids. Inside these grids, I can set up buildings, and these buildings can either house colonists, such as the living quarter, the living complex, the nursery. You can get research done with a research lab. You can get an open air gym, a casino, a security station, all sorts of needs that these colonists might have. Now I completed archaeology quickly because I completed a milestone by constructing a dome. So archaeology is now done, and that is in a perfect timing, because I can now set up that archaeology spire. So I'm going to build this thing for 60 concrete and 10 polymers. That's why I ordered the polymer drop. This one goes in here, and it's currently saying I don't have enough power. Yes, because that's actually true. Right now I'm not building anything, or I'm not sending any power to this dome. Which for now is perfectly fine, because there's nobody living here. If you have a dome with colonists inside, and the dome loses power, they're going to freeze. If they lose oxygen production, they're going to suffocate. If they lose water production, they're going to, or not water production necessarily, but if they lose access to water, they're going to get severely dehydrated. And at some point, if you lose your food, they're all going to starve. So surviving on Mars is not always as pleasurable or as as easy as it sounds. Because you only need to lose one of those 4, and your colonists are going to die. Now, something else that I need to do is set up more power. Currently, there is much more of a power demand than I can currently supply. So it's time to set up a couple of power systems. You have a couple of different options. I think the large wind turbines could produce quite a bit of power for the moment. These produce 10 power each. They cost me 2 machine parts, which I still have enough of, and they require a bit of machine part maintenance. That is something you will have to keep in mind. If you don't have the maintenance required for these things, they will shut down. And if that happens too fast, you can lose all power to your colony. Which can then also, for example, shut down the drone hub. So all your drones don't work anymore. And it's just going to cause a big cascade failure. The whole colony could completely grind to a halt. Now, the next phase of the operation is going to be to provide water. But first, power. I'm going to go with a couple of large wind turbines because they function day and night. And they even get increased production in dust storms and at high elevations. So if I build it over here, I'm going to get an elevation boost of 6%. So they generate 6% more power. Would I put it all the way up over here, I'm going to get a 41% boost. But I couldn't get here. Over here, yeah, you're talking 41%, 49% even, all the way up there. Unfortunately, I cannot quite get to where I would like to build it. So I'm just going to have to build it somewhere where it's not really too much in the way. Let's not build it there, actually. Just set up a couple of these things here. Now, this is the edge of the map, so I'm not likely to build anything else here anyway. And that's why I'm setting them up over there. I will need to have power lines, power cables being provided there. Like that. The drones, for the moment, are focusing on building the spire. And that's probably going to take a bit more time, because I still need more concrete. So in the meanwhile, they can start to set up additional of these things. But these two need concrete. I can make this a higher priority by just clicking the priority button and making sure that these things are more likely to get built faster. But right now it's not really a priority for me. Because the game's information is not quite accurate. The game is saying you need 20 power, or you need 35 power. That's this dome. The dome needs 15 power, but there's no real need for me to supply the dome with power. So right now I can just completely shut down the dome. It doesn't require any power, doesn't require any oxygen, doesn't require any water either. And then the game is saying, okay, no, never mind, you have enough power. It's all fine. Actually, hold on with this one. I'm building too many of these things. Maybe once the dome is active, I'll build another one. Or actually, how much does an archaeology spire require, power-wise? 20 power. Oh, crap. That's a bit more than I was hoping for. That means that I will have to build another wind turbine. And the annoying bit is you cannot rotate these things. So you cannot neatly fit them into each other. What I can do is set up a large solar panel in between. And then have another wind turbine over there. Now this is a bit risky, or can be a bit risky, because you keep putting all your eggs in one basket. And if a meteor strikes this area, I'm going to lose a significant chunk of my power supply. So that is definitely the downside. And it can be quite risky, relying on that a little too much. And meanwhile, let's flatten a bit more. The area is currently too large. This one, the dozer, goes there. Alright, we're researching any additional... No, we're not actually getting any additional anomalies at this point. We do have a good supply of metal. The archaeology spire is about 60% through completion. And... oh crap, it doesn't quite fit. Cancel that. I need to set up a power line over here as well. Cancel this, cancel this. I have to redo this because I was hoping that from a large wind turbine to a large solar panel you could just provide the power, but it doesn't work that way. In that case, I'll just have a couple of these. A couple of large solar panels. I want to destroy some of these things. But I'm not even sure if you can destroy power lines. Salvage. Yep, there we go. Because I want the power line set up quite close to this. Like that. Alright, now I'm gonna have a bit of a problem because the power is only being provided through the day. In the night, the solar panels close like that. Protect them from dust, and mainly because there's no sun, they don't actually generate anything. You can make sure that you still have some power by using the power accumulator. Basically a big battery. Now I also got a notification that there are some new planetary anomalies available. Planetary anomalies, you can find those over here. There's quite a bit going on here. We got Project Demeter. One-off strange readings usually don't merit much attention. This one is too weird to be a sensor glitch. It requires 6 medics. So this is something I cannot do because I simply don't have any colonists at all, let alone medics. Hinterland. I'm going to need an RC dozer to go there, and it will get me a breakthrough. That could be interesting. Project Monarch. 10 drones. Research progress. Quite useful. Project Seal. 10 colonists of any specialization. New technologies. And Project Yukon, which is requiring 3 infantry. Right. 3 colonists of the medic type. And it's going to give me some resources. The one that I kind of want to go for is this one. The Project Hinterland. I will need a rocket which is ready. Which I currently don't have. Because this one's still loading up with fuel. It's 35 of 50, so it's still going to take a bit of time to fuel this thing up. But once it's done, I will send out my RC dozer, which is currently working, or rather, should be working. Yeah, there it is. It is working on flattening this. And then I can send it out and get a bit more research done. Now we're generating more power, but I'm not actually saving any. So let's set up a couple of power accumulators over here. And that way I'm going to have a little bit of reserve power. There is definitely a lot of metal being offloaded by the RC Explorer. Sorry, the RC Transport, as you can see zipping off here in the distance. This one just keeps looking over Mars and currently is picking up all of these metal deposits. Now the archaeology spire is almost complete. My bottleneck is still this, the concrete. And over here I'm also going to need concrete and polymers. And then I should have no problem also powering the dome. These things produce 40... Sorry, the power from these is actually 5, not 40. Oh crap, we got a dust storm coming in. This is not great. All pipes and cables are going to get damaged, or can be damaged. Stock up on power, water and oxygen. Power is no longer going to be produced by solar panels, because they don't work. Water is no longer going to be produced because your moisture evaporators don't work. Water extractors can still work. And the Moxie is the thing that provides oxygen. This is something that's quite important. Not right now. It's not a priority for me. Because, well, I simply don't need it. Because there's nobody actually making use of the water. So for now I'm not too concerned about the dust storm. I will set up one of those wind turbines. And let's do that here, slightly farther away from the rest. Because if I have one of these, I will still have power and I can close up the Stirling generator. Because this thing is going to take a lot of dust, well, damage / maintenance cost. Because this thing in its open state is very sensitive to Martian dust. So this is a priority. Should be going up pretty soon. 5 out of 8, 2 out of 2 machine parts. And in a dust storm, the large wind turbines and the smaller wind turbines, they all generate power a hell of a lot faster. Because there's simply more wind to use. Ah, the SETI project. The SETI project is quite interesting. It gets you more funding. It's a simply flat 2 billion bonus to your income. It does require 50 fuel, 30 electronics, and 50 metal. Can be interesting to go on, but right now I don't find it too interesting just yet. I want to get my research up, and more importantly, I want to get my dome operational. The archaeology spire is now operational, and with this I can house 32 colonists. This is basically a very big skyscraper where all of the colonists are going to live. So that means that the rest of the dome can be used for other stuff, such as building a farm. But I'm going to be doing that and more in the next episode. For now, we got the dome operational. We're flattening a little bit more of Mars, so I can build more easily on it. We have more power. We have the wind turbine. We have the concrete extractor. Next episode, I'm going to build up the dome a little more and try to get the first colonists to come this way. And that is also going to give me an additional milestone, because the first human on Mars, and then potentially a little later the first Martian born. These are nice bonuses to get, because that's 750 research points. Anyway, that's all for Surviving Mars today. Hope you enjoyed it. I shall catch you next week for the next episode.